What's up there, guys? Thanks for tuning in. I'm Rick. This is Fanfare for the Conscious, and in the video today we're going to be talking about ancient Britain and the Molmutine laws. Let's dive in. Now, I find it quite fitting that I'm actually recording this on the evening of November the 5th, on the day when we remember the great Guy Fawkes and his attempts to bring down the Houses of Parliament. I almost feel a little bit like old Guy myself, lighting the fuse on my own little bombshell, which should hopefully begin something that will bring this system down. So I'm here to tell you about ancient Britain and the Molmutine laws. Now, I always wondered as a child, and then even more so as I grew up and became an adult, why we hadn't really learned about the ancient and original civilization of this great land. My earliest memories of history at school were learning about the Saxon invasions and the Viking invasions. I never learned anything about the ancient peoples whom were being invaded. I only learnt about the invaders. And I found that quite interesting and a little disturbing as I came into later life. But believe it or not, there is a history that has been hidden from you all, and a history which has been stolen from us, and a history which we need to reclaim as the rightful heirs of these lands. An organised civilization has existed in Britain since at least 2000 BC, and this is evidenced by the fact there are ancient works on the sites of Stonehenge and also at Old Sarum, and particularly around the Wiltshire area of the country. There's an awful lot of ancient megaliths in that sort of area and ancient stone constructions. Now, it's interesting to note that primitive civilizations do not tend to build megalithic structures. People whose daily grind is spent simply surviving, very reminiscent of our current situation, tend not to engage in great projects. If you're spending all your time tending to fields or hunting animals or doing any of the other basic means of survival, then you don't really have the spare time to go hauling great big stones around. And you see this same lie perpetrated a lot across the world, with the ancient civilizations of the Maya and the Inca producing great structures, the Egyptians producing great structures, and they've always given us this idea that these civilizations themselves were primitive compared to us, when quite clearly such colossal undertakings would be a struggle even for our supposedly advanced society. Now, if you've not actually been to Wiltshire and looked at the sites of Stonehenge and Old Sarum and actually read some of the boards and done some reading around those sites in particular and the ages of those structures, and actually take a moment to consider the magnitude of the task involved with constructing those buildings, then you start to really understand that the civilization that existed at those times must have had a very decent level of advancement and certainly would not have been primitive tribespeople. Now, it's important to point out that a lot of what is going to follow has come from the work of Michael Obernicia, and you can find links from him at thebernician.net. I'll drop a couple of those down in the description below if you want to read a little bit more about that. You should also take some time to look into the works of two historians called Alan Wilson and Tony Blackett. You can find interviews from Alan Wilson over on the Bernician's YouTube channel, and I'll give you a couple of links in the description again, so you can look into the ancient history work that he's done on his own channel over there. Also, another documentary by Alan Wilson on Rich Planet by Richard D. Hall, which goes into the Arthurian legend, and that is very, very interesting. So again, all of these links in the description for you below, so that you can go and have a click around and have a look at those bits as well yourself. But I'm just going to summarise what I've come to understand in this little video today, and we're going to talk about the heritage of Britain now. The heritage of Britain actually goes back all the way to ancient Greece and the Trojans, and the very first tribe which settled on these isles was a tribe called the Cymry. Now, if I do have any Welsh viewers, then you will be very, very aware of the importance of the name Cymry, and anybody who has a little bit of knowledge about Welsh history and Wales in general will also recognise that term. And a lot of the reason that a lot of Welsh culture, I believe, has been crushed in this country is down to the fact that a lot of Welsh culture and Welsh history is the history of the original Britons as it was preserved. And obviously they don't want us to be too aware of that. They don't really want us to know about that. Now, British common law actually dates back and is traceable back to a series of laws called the Molmutine laws. And the Molmutine laws themselves were created around 510 BC by a king called Dunvallo Molmitius. And Dunvallo Molmitius was a Cornish king who united the kingdom of Britain, and he ended the War of the Five Kingdoms. So there were 5 separate kingdoms on these isles which had fallen out and come to blows, and there was a civil war that was going on, and Dunvallo Molmitius himself was the one who ended that war and unified the 5 kingdoms. He created a unified and peaceful nation under ancient common law. Unfortunately, when he died, there was then a civil war between his 2 sons, and they were brothers, and they had a civil dispute over the title of the king. I do believe one of the brothers then made peace with the other one and ended the war, whereby there was this ancient unification of the nation. So then there was around about 500 years of a peaceful kingdom in Great Britain, and from what I've come to understand, it was so rich and it was so prosperous in this nation that kings and queens from all over the world would send their sons and daughters to our island to learn from the great universities, and they would spend 5, 6, sometimes 7 years over here studying at our universities to become learned in the ancient knowledge. Around 550 AD, though, there was an attempted invasion by the Romans and attempted occupation. Now, this occupation never succeeded. It did actually fail, though the boundaries of what we now know to be England mark the original, or close to the original borders of what used to be that Roman occupation. Now, the Romans are noted in history as being astounded by the amount of resistance that was offered by the British people, if you know which texts to look at, of course, because a lot of this history has been hidden. Our ability to marshal forces, our ability to resist, and our ability to wage asymmetric warfare against them forced them to beat a retreat. And as I've come to understand it, it may have actually been British forces that were involved in the sacking of the Roman Empire itself and the fall of Rome, and possibly even the introduction of Christianity to the Roman Empire. Now, around 560 AD, Britain was struck by a meteorite, which was caused massive destruction, and it basically eliminated a lot of the infrastructure of the late nation and left what was basically a wasteland with small isolated groups of people just sort of picking over to survive. And it was into that wasted land that the Saxons wandered. And there is the beginning of the history that we are all taught. Also got the Viking invasions going on from then, and then all of the great false kings of our kingdom, which have come from the influence of these foreign invading entities. Most of what you have been taught of your British history is a lie. Now, I'm not actually going to take the time to fully read out the Molmutine laws here in this particular video, though I will cover them in another one. If you do want to read them in the meantime, again, there are more videos over on the Benisians YouTube channel. Go and check that out. Now, I'm actually just going to finish this video off with a quick word from Anna von Reitz. Because, believe it or not, even Anna von Reitz herself has discovered the Molmutine laws. This is one of her earliest posts, pre-400, around 370 something, I believe, or 360 something. If you want to go and check out the post herself, go and check out annavonreitz.com, links in the description, search bar at the top, and type in Molmutine laws. You'll find a post from her that comes up there, and it reads like this. Let us lament with King Solomon that there is nothing new under the sun. When we go all the way back to the most distant roots of law in Britain, we find the Molmutine laws, which reveal the following tenets. There are 3 tests of civil liberty: equality of rights, equality of taxation, freedom to come and go. There are 3 causes which ruin a state: inordinate privilege, corruption of justice, and national apathy. There are 3 things that cannot be considered solid longer than their foundations are solid: peace, prosperity, and law. And let us lament that the checks and balances which are foundational to keeping our lawful government in operation that have been undermined by bribes from corporations called federal block grants. As a result, our peace, our prosperity, and our system of law is in grave danger. This ancient wisdom is as true today, cast into modern terms, as it was when first verbalised sitting around campfires in Stone Age Britain. Thank you to our friends in the British Isles who took the time to send us this timely and wise summation, almost like a postcard from Mom, telling us to wash our socks and repair the foundations of our government. Now we'll actually just take a moment to correct Anna in that it was actually Iron Age Britain, I believe, but give and take, the fact that the lady has recognised it is good enough for me. Thank you very much for watching. If indeed you still are, if you have liked this content, don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up and notification bell set to all. Make sure you are always kept up to date with all of my videos, which are dropped on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 PM UK time. If you do want to join me and become part of our lawful gatherings, assemblies and conventions of people ready to replace the corrupt governments of this world, then please head over to lawfulbank.com, get signed up, add me as a friend and speak to Mr. Neil Warren, who will guide you about the site. Take care of yourselves, don't forget to stay free, think free and act free, and as always, I will see you next time.